Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the parallel session 4, and we will be looking at what is needed from the humanitarian and resilience sectors with regards to the application and use of physical and social sciences. My name is Irene Amuron, and I'm the manager for anticipatory action with the Red Cross Red Crescent Climate Center, and I'll be the facilitator for this. I will be the facilitator for this session today. Let me just give me a minute. Thank you. SHEAR has offered the Red Cross with scientific support towards the design for triggers for floods and drought that have led to the development of the early actions protocols. And with these early actions protocols, Kenya and Uganda Red Cross will be able to implement early actions once the defined thresholds have been reached. SHEAR also provided lots of support that included the development and analysis of forecasts that could be used for decision making to activate forecast-based financing. These lots of support included also risk analysis, advocacy for anticipatory action, as well as capacity building for the national Met agencies. There have also been quite a number of valuable products that have been developed through the SHEAR partnership and that are still operational. With the SHEAR support, we were able to define the thresholds and probabilities for floods based on a robust scientific analysis. The risks and uncertainties of the forecast were explored, and agreement sought with critical stakeholders when early action can be taken. For our sectors, however, there are quite a number of challenges that we had to work with when we are dealing with science and the scientists that have been supporting these pieces of work. And some of these challenges included access to relevant weather and climate data, a lack of appreciation of the limitations of climate science, limited in-country expertise on impact-based forecasting, among others. What we have learned to address some of these challenges is what we will be discussing in this panel. We will get to know how the collaborative process have been, how can we sustain the developments and the gains that have been achieved throughout this process. And I am excited to have a team of 3 people who will share with us their thoughts, and these scientists and the panelists on the panel will share with us some of the insights that we can take forward, how we can address challenges together to achieve the best possible outcomes in humanitarian action, disaster risk reduction, and development. And without further ado, I would like to introduce one of our panelists, Sumit Dugar, who is the disaster resilience advisor at the British Embassy at Kathmandu. Sumit is leading a £46 million strengthening disaster resilience and responding to humanitarian emergencies in Nepal portfolio, and working closely with the government of Nepal, UN agencies, Red Cross, international NGOs to build capacity to respond to natural hazards. Interested in the political economy of how scientific research can be used to inform policy and practice and influence resilience programming. Welcome, Sumit. The next panelist we have is Mirianna Budimir, who is the Senior Disaster Risk Reduction Advisor at Practical Action, an international development organization working across Latin America, Africa, and South Asia. Mirianna is also one of the knowledge brokers for the SHEAR program, and her work at Practical Action includes improving the science and practice interface on topics such as disaster risk reduction, early warning systems, end-mile communication, gender, and international development. Welcome, Mirianna. And finally, we have Emmah Mwangi, who is a former climate researcher at Kenya Red Cross Society and is currently a doctoral researcher at the University of Sussex. She is a climate scientist and doctoral researcher with interest in bridging the gap of climate information using risk management. And so we do know our panelists, and I would also like our participants who've joined us to kindly, if I told you in the chat, kindly just let us know who you are and where you're dialing in from. And once again, welcome to this session. So We have 4 questions that we'd like to discuss with our panelists, and all our panelists are welcome to share their thoughts with us regarding these questions. So my first question goes to you, Sumit. What would you say has been the biggest asset of SHEAR with regards to the application of science in the humanitarian and resilience practice? How has this solidified the work on the ground, and how did this lead to impact? Over to you, Sumit.
Thanks for the question, and welcome to everyone joining this event virtually across the world. I think the biggest asset of SHEAR has been working in interdisciplinary teams, which has helped us to understand the nuances and also the importance of using both physical and social sciences to understand disaster risk across Asia and Africa. Likewise, knowledge management from Practical Action Consulting and the Red Cross Climate Center has been critical to ensure that the learning and knowledge is not lost or forgotten. An example of how SHEAR's work has solidified work leading to impact is the work that I was closely engaged with the past 5 years. Especially taking an example is via flight research from the University of Durham. We granted urgent SHEAR grants immediately after the earthquake in Nepal in 2015. And basically what they did was strengthen the understanding of the spatial and temporal progression of landslide risk in the 14 earthquake-affected districts in Nepal over 6 years. This helped us to create novel data sets. The analysis helped us to inform the resettlement of vulnerable households to safer locations by working very closely with the National Reconstruction Authority in Nepal. And likewise, it helped us to shape the 63 million pound support to the government of Nepal on reconstruction after the 2015 Gorkha earthquake. The best part is that all the data sets, all the science, it's been published in reputed academic journals, and it's in the public domain, which is owned by the government of Nepal's Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Authority's geospatial platform called the Vipat Portal, links of which I've shared in the resources tab as well. And likewise, certain data sets from the landslide EBO project is in the process of being updated in the government of Nepal portal. So I think the biggest asset has been institutionalization of the data and research in the government platform. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sumit. Yes, you've mentioned application of the knowledge products as well as creating data sets that have been used in decision making in Nepal. And I'll now go over to you, Mirianna. Mirianna, what are the highlights that you can share with us regarding the biggest assets from SHEAR?
Thanks, Irene. I think one of the biggest assets of SHEAR is really the partnerships that it's allowed us to form, and those relationships across academia, across policy, across practice. Those relationships between researchers and humanitarian and resilience practitioners really means that the research itself has been designed in a way that's directly related to the challenges that are going on the ground. So by working with project partners who have experience, have direct knowledge, and have been experiencing those issues and challenges on the ground, it means that that research is directly addressing those needs. And they're answering the questions that are facing humanitarians and resilience practitioners every day, and providing the evidence base really to be able to make decisions more confidently, with more reliability, and more kind of confidence going forward, knowing that that evidence base is very, very strong, coming from a strong research and academic background. It means that the outputs from SHEAR are really wide-ranging, from academic publications to policy papers to practical guides to manuals, and it means that many of those outputs, either at the kind of the global scale or often at the national scale, with our project partners, means that they have got some really useful resources they can take up and use going forward to actually make decisions every day, develop their own standard operating procedures, etc., so that they actually have some really useful outputs going forward from this. You know, academic publications are fantastic and amazing and really, really useful, and then they are vital. But in terms of knowing what to do after SHEAR ends, we've got a real wealth of resources that those practitioners in those countries that we've been working with can take and run with beyond the end of SHEAR. By working across research and our in-country partnerships, it means that the activities within the SHEAR projects have been really actually useful for those partners, and means that there's going to be, through those partnerships, there's going to be a legacy of knowledge in those countries, not only kind of within academia within the UK, but also within those institutions that are facing these challenges. And those project partners can really take up that knowledge and run with it beyond SHEAR.
Thank you so much, Mirianna. And yes, you highlight the wealth of resources that have been produced and that are still being used, as well as the value of partnerships. And let's run over to you, Emmah. Any of the highlights that you have to share with us?
Right. Thank you very much, Irene. I think one of the biggest assets that I've seen from SHEAR is that it gave a platform to start conversations that weren't there before, or were very limited before, between institutions that hold the mandate to produce early warning information and institutions that are using that information. And if I may give a case about Kenya, so he gave a platform, one, for the Kenya Meteorological Department to start a conversation with the Drought Management Authority, but not only that, but that also extended to institutions like Kenya Red Cross Society. And with that, it also creates more coordination amongst institutions, because now you're having with the early action protocols, a conversation that's continuing between Kenya Meteorological Department, the National Drought Management Authority, and then back to Kenya Red Cross, and creating that loop between one government information providers, government risk managers, but also connecting with the humanitarian institution. And that means that going forward, the impact that is there is that, one, that the meteorological service is providing the information that's very critical for the humanitarian sector, but also for the government risk management institution. But also thinking about it more is that the government and the humanitarian organizations also have a platform to work better and to advocate for anticipatory action, or be it better response towards disasters. And that collaboration also means there is capacity building going on, not only of how to use information, but also looking at it is how do we manage risk better amongst these particular institutions. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Emmah. Yes, you rightfully so flag off the SHEAR being able to provide a platform to engage, as well as strengthening coordination across Kenya specifically, and also a place for coordination. So I believe also that having many people here is a testimony of the highlights that we have from SHEAR. So I will get back to you, Mirianna, with my second question regarding the challenges. So could you share with us one of the major challenges for the humanitarian or resilience practitioners to be able to apply scientific information and research findings in the design and implementation of their work on the ground? And also, how were you able to address this challenge? Yes, Mirianna, could you kick us off on that?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Irene. Good question. I'm going to slightly deviate and outline more than one challenge, but kind of the solutions are basically the same. So some of the challenges that we experience as practitioners to try and use that scientific information to address the challenge we experience on the ground are around, actually understanding what that science means and how it's going to be useful in the context that we're working in. There's a lot of kind of jargon and technicalities, and sometimes the backgrounds of practitioners does not align well with some of the background knowledge that academics bring. The communication of that science and understanding how that can be useful in the context that we're working in, and then also the sustainability. So of the science, of the tools, of the approaches, these innovations that scientists and researchers can bring, they're absolutely fantastic, but do they exist beyond the end of project funding? And often we find this kind of project cycle, trying something new, and it's great and you can see the usefulness of it, but then the project funding ends and you don't have any kind of access, and you don't really understand, you can't use that information, you can't do the things yourself once the researchers have gone away at the end of the project funding cycle. So those are some of the kind of the challenges that we experience from the resilience and practitioner sphere of things. And I think one of the benefits, and I'm probably kind of banging the same drum a little bit in terms of the benefits that SHEAR brings, is really this: by having these partnerships and the emphasis within the program of knowledge transfer and capacity building, means that the approaches that the research designs, those tools, those data, the outputs are really useful to those practitioners and can be co-produced in a collaborative way. That means that beyond the end of SHEAR, that knowledge still will exist within those institutions. Hopefully, I'm seeing a lot of that coming out from the SHEAR program, so I'm going to kind of say that with a confidence that it will, the knowledge that we've gained from SHEAR will continue within those practitioners operating in the country we've been working in, and having that kind of embedded knowledge within institutions and organizations means that it's not kind of stuck within that research cycle. They're not starting from scratch again. That's something that we can build on, and really it's about kind of building those layers of knowledge and approaches that can be useful for tackling some of these challenges that we're experiencing on the ground. So yeah, those partnerships are really, really important, and have, I think, really shown and demonstrated that they have a real impact on the ground beyond the end of SHEAR.
Thanks a lot, Mirianna, and I can totally relate with the challenge that you mentioned, what next with all these tools. But I also love and believe in the fact that co-creation and partnership helps us address and or help the sustainability, the use and the sustainability of these tools past the end of the project. So I'm also optimistic as you that the sustainability can go on for quite a while, and somebody else can pick up the baton. So I'm happy to hear about the solution to the challenge. And now I'll also hand over the same baton to you, Emmah. What was the main challenge that that you can share with us, and also the solution to that challenge? Over to you, Emmah.
Thank you very much, Irene. I think my thoughts were in the line of Mirianna around the sustainable access to actionable information, but I'll take a slightly different angle to it, because most of what we see in projects is that we co-create and we start producing, and there's access to these very nice actionable tools and products. But then sometimes you'll find that a lot of it is led not from local institutions, but from the global north. And what means is that when the project is gone, then the production and access to that might be gone. Maybe there was data that was being provided, or there was support, some capacity support that was being provided. And then there becomes a challenge that someone in the local institution, maybe the department, the meteorological department, is being asked by the stakeholders, where is this product? And the person will be saying that product was being produced by the project through this particular university, but we can no longer provide that information. And the way to address this, and this is, I'm very passionate about this, is creating local capacity within our institutions. In if this project is in Africa or wherever, are we creating, and it's not one person, but a pool of people with the capacity to produce this information going forward, that they're able, even if it's one person, they're able to spread that knowledge to more people, that information will continually be accessible, and they can be able to tackle challenges with their partners if they need issues around the interpretation and use, then they're reachable to be able to respond to such queries. Back to you, Irene.
Yes, thank you, Emma. I am equally passionate about the issue of localization. I know there was an article that was, I think, released a few days ago on LinkedIn where it said, please do not call me a local actor, so should we find another word for local people? But I think, yes, I do believe that, yes, the issue of localization and institutionalization is a potential if we miss out on it, it's a very big threat to sustaining our benefits. And actually, this is also, in my view, within institutions as well. It's as good as saying, if Irene walked away and you need something, so when Irene is not there, then everything is stuck. So if we worked with a university from the north, if the project ends, so we are looking for emails that are no longer active and we can't do much. So yes, I'm happy that SHEAR invested in building capacities of, again, I use the word local with all the humility and respect of local actors. Yes, Sumit, over to you. Any highlights, any challenge, from Nepal that you can briefly share with us?
Yes, thanks a lot. Actually, you've made my life a lot easier by spelling out most of the things. And I also want to echo with what Emma and Mirianna mentioned earlier. But again, I would like to emphasize that not everyone has a background in engineering, climate science, geography, or disaster risk management. And we are privileged, the group of people attending this conference, we are privileged, and we need to recognize the privilege that we have, because often resilience practitioners and humanitarian actors are generalists. Sometimes they don't even have formal education but are working in the field with us. So unless research outputs that we create, that have complex data, numbers, we talked a lot about risk and uncertainty, and the analysis are presented in a way that is well understood by the general audience and is contextualized, then it'll be difficult to, unless it is well understood by the general audience, then it'll be quite difficult to apply the research findings in design and implementation of programs. So I think that is one of the challenge, and I think SHEAR has tackled the challenge very well, with the variety of projects that have been funded over the past 5 years. The example that I presented earlier from the University of Durham and also Imperial College London, that is leading the landslide EVO project, they are very well respected among the development partners and government because of their collaboration and also their way of communicating complex science to stakeholders. Similarly, colleagues from Landslip and Fathom, they have cordial relationship with stakeholders in India and Africa because, they understand how best complex messaging can be explained to resilience and humanitarian practitioners to act. So there are different ways to visualize risk, and there's no right or wrong approach, as SHEAR has shown us. And unless and as long as if it is contextual, understood well enough to take action, then I think it is really, really helpful. And I think the examples of early warning system exemplifies that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sumit. And again, picking up on the challenges that we have just had, and again, I will drive the seat back to you, Mirianna. Imagine we had Bill Gates in the house, we had FCD. I'm hoping that there's someone from FCD in the house. What message would you have to the donors to ensure that some of these challenges are addressed? What would we tell them for the future to be able to address these challenges from a donor's perspective? So maybe one or two thoughts would be helpful. So we would have Mirianna, and then I'll get back to you, Sumit and Emma. Over to
Thanks,
you.
Irene. I'm gonna do three three main points. Sorry, going above what you've asked for. And some of them I think that we've demonstrated really, really well in the SHEAR program, and some of them I think we've learned through the SHEAR program, and they're not really new. This has been discussed within the resilience sector for a long, long time. So my first one is, and again, it's working with the partners. Working with partners who have the experience, the knowledge, established relationships in the areas that we want to be working in, and the context that we're working in. And I'll caveat that with working with those partners on an equal basis. So from the beginning, and recognizing their experiences and their skills that they bring to the table on an equal level to all the partners that are within that consortium. My second one really is around designing those projects or those implementations or our strategies responding to the challenge rather than trying to fit some science that you have into the context. So changing kind of that dynamic and really starting with the challenge and trying to address those challenges with the science and the research that we have and those skills. And thirdly is this kind of more time and flexibility, so that the length of the SHEAR program was really great in terms of being able to achieve a lot. And we were reflecting on that yesterday, and that 5 years, 5+ years in some cases of funding really meant that we could have a lot of impact. A bit more flexibility might be great in terms of getting better familiarity with context, new context particularly, that people may have not worked in before, and developing those relationships, particularly if you're bringing multi-disciplines to try and understand each other. It takes a long time to develop that trust and that transparency, and working across not just disciplines, but also organizations that you might not have worked with before. So having that time and flexibility to understand, develop that familiarity, but also that trust that you build through consortiums that work in the way that some of the SHEAR projects are designed to work. That trust really helps when you're tackling really challenging topics and trying to do something that's quite advanced and quite challenging. So those relationships are key to being able to really achieve impact, whilst at the same time potentially doing cutting edge research.
Thank you, Mirianna. Emmah, your one or two thoughts to what would you tell Bill Gates if he was in the room?
Oh, that's a tough one. But I think one of the major things I think I would advocate for is that the scoping exercise is more detailed. Before we write up these proposals, how is the scoping done? And I think there are some donors who are kind enough to fund a small scoping exercise, so that, as Mirianna says, by the time you're writing up a proposal, you're sort of starting to address the challenges that the stakeholders are already facing in the ground. And if your scoping is quite detailed and you're able to interact with a few of the stakeholders, that means you already also have buy-in from the institutions or the partners that you are looking at. I know some of us who've worked in our projects with government institutions know how slowly the wheels in government turn. And if from the initial you have their buy-in and they're already telling you that these are the challenges we have, can you address this for us? And you're saying, yes, we have the capability to do that, but then we cannot do this, that already creates quite some coherence. And the third thing is, again, the involvement of the local institutions, because that context, they are the ones who know the context much more. So it's about also engaging with them. But over and above is looking at what initiatives are already there. How can we synergize, or how can we build, instead of sometimes duplicating, what are we building on? What can we pick and move along the chain and enhance it a little better? And also, as this is designed and as donors think about it, is putting in more resources into capacity enhancement, as well as partly advocacy, because we need to move this research over into sustainable and in an operational way. So it's looking at a bigger budget and a bigger time frame to build and enhance capacity. Back to you, Irene.
And Sumit, your thoughts to FCDO.
Well, I mean, since I represent FCDO, so I'll be constructively critical whilst answering the question. But I do agree with what Mirianna said earlier, not using the science to fit into a project, but rather letting the science evolve, as the project organically evolves. And I also like the idea that Emmah said, having resources to do a scoping study. And as far as I remember, we did have a scoping study for the SHEAR project in 2012, 2013, before the SHEAR funding got underway in 2015, 2016. So I'm reflecting on that. But coming back to the challenges and how best as donors we can ensure that such challenges are addressed upfront. So I think the research projects funded by the UK research councils can gain traction and have an impact by working closely with the country offices or missions or the embassies. I mean, there is an opportunity for research to inform country, regional, and also central bilateral programming. And UK's expertise on science, technology, research, and innovation can be showcased by the host country. And this helps to build trust. And, I have seen that firsthand. UK research has helped me build leverage and also good relationships with the government counterparts. So, I would encourage future grantees from UK universities and organizations to make that connection sooner than later than in implementation. Often, I'm invited to opening and closing workshops of research projects. And I wonder, what could have been, if advisors from country offices were engaged in the design and implementation. So, that's the missed opportunity that I think can be improved upon. As donors, we can ensure that the top-notch scientific research and analysis from the UK is in the eyes and ears of the host government and other donors, as EU, USAID, international financial institutions, and also UN agencies. Likewise, we can request mission heads to raise the profile of the amazing work that is being carried out in country by UK universities. After all, it is funded by ODA resources. And I think collaboration between SHEAR projects has been great. I would say excellent. And we have had many PhD students benefited from that. And coming to that, I think the PhD thesis, even if they're quite long and lengthy, it would be great to have them all in the SHEAR website as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much for looking inwardly, but also sharing honestly what could be done and what to focus on. And I think this is the kind of learning that we need to be able to ensure that we are applying the learning that we are talking about. And so as we come to the end of the SHEAR journey, as we come to the end of this amazing 4 years journey of SHEAR, I would like, I'll start off with you, Sumit, if you don't mind. I would like you to share with us one strategy that FCDO has supported or is putting into place to ensure the sustainability of the benefits that we have achieved under SHEAR. How are we looking at applying the science that has been generated through SHEAR to ensure that it's usable? So I'd be keen for you to hear from you just one strategy.
Yeah, I think the science journey never ends. I think you recognize something is missing, when you complete a certain research project, and there are many things coming up in the radar. I can mention that headquarters are working up a plan to ensure that the best application of science and research gets taken forward in the new phase of programming that is being discussed. Apart from that, learning from SHEAR is being fed into UK research councils such that it can be incorporated in the future rounds of funding. SHEAR's website, must remain operational, as we must not lose institutional memory, and researchers and practitioners can refer back to what has been achieved thus far and also plan for future funding rounds. Understanding disaster risk and natural hazards is improving at an exponential scale with the rise of artificial intelligence, drone technology, Internet of Things, and big data. And the field is evolving very rapidly. And I hope the research can keep its pace with what is required by stakeholders and host governments to take action. And I think by this, we can put research into use and inform practice and policy. And this is the good legacy of SHEAR that we need to carry on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sumit, for the strategies that you've put forward. It's more than one, but I think, yes, it's thank you for sharing with us. Over to you, Mirianna, and I will ask for one strategy.
Okay.
Please.
Then I'll put my knowledge broker hat on and just kind of give a pitch in terms of the knowledge and the learning from each of the SHEAR projects, but also SHEAR program as a whole. Those outputs have been captured, are being captured. There's a lot more coming out in the next couple of months, and that learning will continue to be accessible via the SHEAR website long term. So just to reassure you, Sumit, there will be a SHEAR website that will be a platform that everyone will be able to access all of the resources from SHEAR long term, forever. As we're coming to the end of SHEAR, we're increasing the dissemination of this knowledge and working with other networks and key stakeholders to make sure that that knowledge is taken up at a global level. And that's kind of the focus that we're going forward. Each of the projects have done a lot of kind of output and dissemination in terms of with their partners. So we're now kind of trying to scale that up in terms of sharing that really exciting knowledge and learning within the kind of the global community. And that will be hopefully, taken up and integrated into future projects, programs, institution approaches. And so we're going to be taking that forward, having conversations, for example, with REAP, with Land Aware, with the Anticipation Hub. So it's really exciting to see all of those outputs kind of coming together in these final few months of SHEAR, and building on all the existing knowledge and sharing that out to the wider international community, and see that SHEAR legacy of knowledge continue and influence that conversation at the global level.
Thank you, Mirianna. And over to you, Emmah. One strategy.
I think looking back from the Kenyan context, I think the strategy that is going to see this sustained one is the operationalization that has gone on, that whatever has been developed within the 4-pack SHEAR project will continue on, but also it will feed into the bigger conversation around anticipatory action within Kenya. As you rightly started this, we've seen the products go into the EAP. We're having MOUs being signed amongst institutions to take this particular initiative forward. And we're also seeing a lot of advocacy within the institutions of how can we use this, or how can we use the products, but also the approach that has come from SHEAR. How can we move it forward, and especially integrate it into government risk management? Back to Irene.
Thank you so much, Emmah. Thank you, Mirianna. Thank you, Sumit. And I will summarize this strategy with a saying, these strategies that all of you have shared, because it gives me hope of life beyond the SHEAR project. And in Uganda, there is usually an interesting saying that the star never dies. It sounds more, when I say it in the local language, it sounds more heavy and it's deep, Statafa. That is what the star never dies. So the SHEAR star will not die when I look at all the strategies that we have in place to be able to keep our light burning. So thank you so much. We've come almost to the end of the journey, but before we crown up our session, I would like, and I'll start with you, Emmah, could you kindly share with us one word that describes or summarizes your experience with SHEAR?
Partnerships.
You've stolen I see, when I look at Mirianna, it looks like you've stolen her thunder. Okay, so partnerships is off the table, Mirianna, so you get to think of another one. Partnerships, yay. So while we give you, Mirianna, to think of a plan B, over to you, Sumit. One word that describes your relationship, your experience with SHEAR.
I think the word would be coordination. Coordination. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Coordination. So we have partnerships, we have coordination, and finally to you, Mirianna, you get to crown us off with one word.
Collaboration.
Collaboration. So partnership, coordination, and collaboration. And I think all of us here are a testimony of the three words that describe our experience. And we do have 2 minutes left, and I'd like to open this to the audience to share with us one word that describes your experience with SHEAR for the past few years. The floor is open. Ladies and gentlemen, the floor is open. Oh no. Oh, how do people have no access to the mic. Okay, and oh God. All right, so I guess the best you can, and neither do you have access to the emojis. Maybe that could give us a reflection or an indication of how your experience has been. Tech challenges, we have, yes, Fla, please, go ahead, Fla. I hope you can speak right now. Fla, the floor is yours. Oh, okay, yeah. Yes, tech challenges. Silence means we are happy and contented. And I think I am equally happy and contented. And on this note, I would say a big, big thank you to our panelists. Thank you, Emmah. Thank you, Sumit. Thank you, Mirianna, for joining us for this session and sharing with us your insights and experiences with the SHEAR program. Thank you, our dear participants. Though we couldn't hear your voices, though we couldn't hear your chats, but I know that all of us have contributed to the 3 words that describe our journey with the SHEAR. Have a lovely rest of the day or evening. Thank you.